We have a question from Lindy today, and she is concerned about figuring out what she wants to make, followed by not knowing how to use the software, so worrying about the software before figuring out what she needs to make. This is the Creative Crafters Podcast. Hi, I'm Bette from Bette's Makes, and this is your questions answered. It's a rather interesting question. If you want to figure out what you make based on the knowledge you already have, you're really going to restrict yourself. And my advice behind it all is make something or find something you want to make, even if it's a fairly complicated looking card, and get it all figured out on paper first, do the measurements and know exactly what you want. Then when it comes time to bringing everything into Design Space or using Design Space to figure out what you have, and then learning what you need to know in order to make what you want to make. I hope this totally makes sense. So what my suggestion is, find out what you want to make first, and that's the big key behind it. And I'm suggesting card here. Now, when you get into the software, of course, your question is going to be, how do I make a square? How do I do a score line? And that's where the learning really comes in, because you can go to a YouTube channel such as Bette's Makes Media and type in a question and you will get the answer that way. So I really suggest you learn as you go and learn what you need to know for the time being. And believe it or not, your knowledge is going to increase each time you do that, because you are learning things you need rather than just learning things for the sake of learning them. And there is a big difference, because things that will stay in your memory, of course, are things that you tactily or have had to make or physically had to know in order to make those things. They stay in your mind a lot longer, whereas if I could teach you every little step inside of Design Space in a couple of hours, you're not going to remember anything. So it's always best to have a project and then learn exactly what you need to know in order to make that project, and then do a similar project right after that, and perhaps another one, just to let that knowledge sink in. And then you can go on to another project and add even more skills at that point. So I hope that answers your question. This has been the Creative Crafters Podcast, and your questions answered.